Hello and welcome to this second stage video feedback for Haunting Injury, who posted on Reddit a few days ago looking for advice on how to feel more in control with snowboarding. And he was one of my first video analysis that I did, and he has then put into practice some of the advice that I've given over the video and also messages as well. So just to compare the difference in the riding now, I'm going to play these two together in slow motion, and we can see in the top video that the body is much more aligned than in the bottom video, and we can really see a big angle of the rider tilting towards the inside of the turn there, which is really good, really using the forces to lean against, and then we would want to see compression of the legs to get that weight pressing into the edge for grip. So just carrying on now, we can see that he does start to really come across the slope, whereas in the bottom video we have, just kind of going straight down the hill, sort of kicking that back foot around, doing speed checks to control the speed rather than using the edge to turn across the slope, and using the turn shape to be what controls the speed and the direction. And on the heel edge we have much more grip coming round, again using the slope to come across to control the direction and the speed. So that's a huge improvement. Really good. I'm really happy to see that, and I'm really happy to know that some advice that I can give over the internet can be useful for developing someone's snowboarding. That really does warm my heart. So let's continue. So just going to eliminate the other video for now because we want to focus on the most recent riding and see what's going on and where we can improve from here. So we can see now that we have, coming across the slope in the toe edge, a much more aligned body position here with the shoulders, the hips and the knees, and the rider is looking in the direction of travel and really cutting across the slope, which is great. Something that I am seeing though, and it's a little bit tricky to see from the distance here, but it does look as though that front shoulder is just still turned out a bit. We want to really get that lined up with the snowboard, and it should really feel like your chin is on top of your shoulder, as if your shoulder was the sight of a rifle and you are aiming down it. And you will feel quite a stretch in your neck by doing this, but that's how we want it to be. And then what that means is that the shoulders are perfectly lined up with the toe edge of the board, and the hands and the arms all just hanging down like dead weight, and all of that weight is distributed over the toe edge. But if you were to open that front shoulder and have it going back so that your arm is hanging over the heel edge, then that is weight which is lost, pressure that is lost, which could be where we want that grip, which is right now on the toes. So anyway, let's go forwards and see what happens when we initiate the turn. So something that I will notice there is that we do have a little bit of an extension of the legs, which is releasing that toe edge, and then we shift the weight back, and there it goes. Now it's starting to come over onto the heels and lifting up that toe edge, which is a huge improvement to what we saw in the last video, where the rider twisted the shoulders and really using this kind of rubber band spring effect from the core to then transfer that into a kick of the back foot. We're now seeing the rider standing up and allowing the weight to transfer from the toes to the heels, leveraging that boot and binding and steering the board with that lever to come round, getting grip on the heel edge there. Now I am seeing a compression on the heel edge, but there is something else that I am seeing which I would encourage not doing. And we can see that the torso, the shoulders are coming towards the toes, and we are breaking here at the waist. Now what that means is that we now have the hips in a kind of sitting back position and the shoulders and the head in a forward leaning position, which is spreading weight out in this area here. Whereas if we had just kept the upright stance that we have here and extending the legs using the knees and the ankles only, and then allowing that weight to shift backwards, then we would see the body resembling more of an upright stance as we were coming through that turn, with that chin still glued on top of that shoulder. And we're going to see this happening when we get to the heels to toe edge turn, that the rider does do this. And this is quite a common thing, and it's basically comes from not trusting that there is support behind you. It's going to feel a bit strange, you know, if you're standing up and you were to allow your weight to shift backwards towards your heels as if you were falling backwards, that there is something behind you to catch you. Like there's imagine a big fluffy pillow behind you, and you're just allowing your weight to just sink backwards until you feel the support of that cushion. And that is coming in the form of momentum driving this way, and your body weight just falling backwards to match the force of that momentum which is holding you. And then once you are there, we then soften the legs and allow the forces to press all of that weight down into the heel edge, with the body upright and the head on top of the shoulder. And you would be able to feel some kind of simulation like this if you were to just stand now in a snowboarding stance, and if you were to just get your body posture right by just rotating the pelvis upwards and locking the core and allowing the glutes to engage and allowing the abdominal muscles to engage, and slightly just dropping the torso down towards the pelvis but without leaning forwards, you will find that you lock the core, keeping it in an upright stance, and then just shifting the weight backwards towards the points of the heels. And you'll feel that there's a point where, you know, if you were to go any further, you would have to take a step back to balance yourself. Try to just get as close to that point as you can and just hold yourself in that position with your head, your chin really on top of that leading shoulder, glued in place. And another thing you can do for this is if you were to just have a wall behind you and just put your back against the wall and then step your heels forwards to be where your toes would be normally if you were standing straight, and you will also feel this heel edge position where you are upright with the chin on top of the shoulder, allowing your body to fall back against the support which is behind you. And it's all about just feeling for that and matching it. So of course, you know, if you're on high speed calves, you can get right down, you can almost be touching the slope, you know, almost skimming your shoulders along the slope. Whereas if you're going slower, you know, you're just going to tilt a little bit. It's about matching the forces to maintain balance. Anyway, let's move on from here and see what happens as we come round. Okay, so we do have good pressure on that edge, good grip on the edge. You know, what you're doing, it is working well. It's working much better than what was happening before. But now I'm seeing something else. As we do come onto that heel edge traverse, at this point I'm now seeing quite straight legs. And then we have the break in the waist with the torso leaning forwards. And so now we have kept this kind of uneven distribution of weight here, which is kind of spread out across the ground. So I would really recommend, you know, doing the exercise which I briefly described just there. And I have been, you know, describing this in a few of my videos now. And so something that I will do in the next days is create a sequence of exercises that you can copy at home in the living room, which is going to massively improve your riding by really just, finding those finer, subtle movements that is what makes snowboarding, and just practicing them. And you can do it anywhere. You can do it at home, or you can do it, while you're waiting in the lift queue, or, while you're waiting for your coffee in the Starbucks or whatever it is you go to. And the more that you practice these things, off the slope, the more it's then going to be there for you when you need it, when you have that valuable riding time, which, we all go through a lot of effort to get to the mountains and get our equipment and all of the things that come with mountain time, the money and everything. You will be able to use that for enjoying these techniques which you've taken the time to learn, for free in your living room. Anyway, let's do away with all of this and see what happens as we go across now to the next turn. Now, what I can see here is, as we're going into this heels to toe edge transition, so we have a really nice extension of the body. That's a really good thing. And you can see that as you do extend the body, just watch what's happening to the toe edge of the board. It just really is flattening. Flattening. The more you extend, it flattens, and as that weight comes to the inside of the turn radius now, we have now the change in edge happening there. And now all we have to do with the body position to the inside of the turn is to just soften those knees and ankles to the point where we match the forces that are coming in, so that we balance and use those forces to transfer weight down into the edge for grip around the turn. But just going to go back a few frames to point out a couple of things with that. So we do have that extension there, but what I will notice is that your head could be forwards on top of that shoulder, which is going to bring, a good few kilos of weight onto that front foot. And then if you were to dip your front shoulder down, like imagine your shoulders were a set of scales and you're just slightly tilting them towards the front end of the snowboard, then it's going to translate to, a good few kilograms more of weight on that front foot, which is going to give you a good few kilograms more of leverage when you do go to twist that boot to initiate the turn. And something that we can notice from that is, as you do extend, I don't know whether it almost looks like the back foot, the toe edge of the back foot is getting to the slope before the toe edge of the front foot, and it really should be the other way around. And we can see here quite clearly that the head is still positioned quite over the back foot. And so it's a small adjustment which will make a big difference. And this is the thing with snowboarding. Snowboarding is really a culmination of very subtle movements and very subtle shifts and differences in the way that you hold your posture and move your body will translate to a very big difference in how the snowboard behaves. Anyway, as we come around, another thing I would also like to see the eyes looking in the direction of travel, whereas at the moment we have the eyes kind of looking here. So again, chin up on top of that shoulder, as if the shoulder was the sight of a rifle and you are aiming down it. Tipping that front shoulder slightly down towards the front foot and using the knee and the ankle to shift the pelvis on top of the front foot, and the shoulder and the head to follow. Anyway, skipping ahead a few frames, what we do have is this is a marvelous body position here, with really coming to the inside of that turn radius with the whole body, and we have head over shoulders, shoulders over hips, hips over knees, and knees over feet. Now all we need to do is compression beginning from the front foot, softening the legs and allowing those forces to really drive into the boot, and then the back foot would follow afterwards. And if you do just notice the difference now in this body posture to what we had on the heel edge, this is what we're looking for. And if we just go across now into that heel edge again, we can see that the upper body comes forwards and the hips kind of sit back, you see. Whereas if we tried to mimic what we saw on the toes turn, is that the body comes all to the inside of that turn radius, and we allow those forces to work upon us to bring that weight down into the heel edge. So main points to take away from this updated analysis is more weight shifting towards the front foot, and dialing in a bit more on that stance on the heel edge, and really trusting the support which is behind you to allow yourself to keep your body stance more upright. And I will be creating a video in the near future that's going to give you some exercises that can simulate this while you are actually not on the slope, so that we can hopefully get more out of our slope time because we do our learning at home. Okay, anyway, that's all I've got to say on this one for now. I hope that it helps, and I hope that you have a lot of fun out there shredding and